Hey folks, it's Rob Catrone here with the Social Capital Podcast brought to you by Coho Coffee House. We are on a mission here to meet with, interview, and share some of Long Island's most interesting and impactful people. November 4th, 2023, episode 001, Doug Lessing. Doug Lessing is the founder of Phin, which is a social good platform that great companies can use to building meaningful relationships with people and causes through sponsored donations. Doug founded it in early 2019 after having spent 30 years with his incredible team building Firebrand Technologies, a software service company for book publishers. Doug is a resident of Blue Point, New York. He is married to his wife, Grace. They have 3 Gen Z daughters and 2 young female Springer Spaniels. He refers to himself as being outnumbered and influenced by strong women, which was a major inspiration for a foundation, Phin, in the first place. Doug has also acted as a mentor, a personal friend, and a confidant who has acted as a rudder through my entrepreneurial journey. So, Doug, I'd like to welcome you to the show for the first time. Thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. Thanks for having me. How much fun is this, right?
Of course.
What a great moment.
Absolutely. So, today, November 4th, 2023, is Coho's ribbon cutting. Couldn't ask for a better guest than you, Doug, and it's also Mama Catrone's birthday, so that's really nice to have her here with us, and it means a lot. So, Doug, let's get right into it, Doug. If you can explain how Phin is and what Phin is and how you got into it, I'd love to hear that.
Yeah. So the idea for Phin was born after, as you said, 30 years in business with my sister and another partner, Fran, who founded Firebrand. And we sort of came to the end of that journey and had an exit from that business, and decided that my next phase of my journey as an entrepreneur was going to be something that was impactful and
Sure.
good. And I really took inspiration from my daughters, who were out doing just remarkable things at an early age. My daughter Lexi was in Ghana for a couple of summers, teaching women entrepreneurs how to create clean water businesses. My daughter Jillian was literally flying around the world working on coral reef restoration by the time she was 20. She's currently sailing in French Polynesia, furthering that passion. And my daughter Lindsay was 3D printing, face shields and masks during the pandemic. So I really took inspiration from all the great work that they had done to create a company that was not only going to give back, but also be a great business. So we started Phin to help companies engage customers and employees with social impact, and help build trust in those relationships.
Wow. A lot to unpack there.
A lot to unpack there.
For those that don't know, once Coho was born in May of 2023, we partnered with Phin. We partnered with Doug. It was really a no-brainer. And when you think of Coho, you think of our tagline that is socially good coffee. That's really, Doug, a feather right out of your cap. That's an inspiration from you to me and to my brand for, God willing, many, many, many locations. But the socially good aspect was something that really gravitated to me. That's something that you really inspired in me, and something that I can apply towards my business. When you think socially good, hopefully you think of Phin as well as Coho, right? But what's really cool is that we've partnered with Phin. So when you come into the store, anytime you have a transaction, a portion of that transaction is used through the conduit that is Phin, to donate towards foundations, charities, municipalities of really the customer's choice. And right now, Coho Phin is working with Save the Great South Bay, Gigi's Playhouse, and Long Island Harvest, 3 foundations that I know mean a lot to you and certainly to me. Gigi's Playhouse in particular, very close with them, and it's an incredible thing that you've done. And talk to me, Doug. Talk to me how you started Phin and kind of really what inspired you to start that.
Well, what I found was that the thesis behind starting Phin was that if you think about the way companies were giving back or being socially responsible, supporting their communities, I felt like there's so much that could be done to create business value for entrepreneurs, for business leaders, while giving back. So in other words, they can make their business actually much stronger by giving back to the community. So that's really the main thesis. That's been proven out by all sorts of marquee companies that have done just that. You take your Patagonias, your Ben and Jerry's, like those sorts of companies, and a lot of others, built their brand around like, no, we're going to do things right, and it makes them stronger. And so the idea behind Phin was not so much like, to go to company leaders and say, hey, let's think about charitable giving. It's more like, how can we strengthen your company and strengthen the community at the same time? Those things are hand in hand. They're not in opposition to each other at all. You're not just giving up philanthropic dollars. You're building your business around it.
Sure.
So that is the main thesis for it. So, for example, here, like, I can't take credit for the socially good coffee line. That was yours, and I'm really glad that you took some leads from what we're doing at Phin. But the idea behind it here at Phin is that you could just write checks to those three amazing organizations, GG's, Island Harvest, and Save the Great South Bay. But what we really wanted to find out was, what do your customers care about? Mm-hmm. And that's what Phin is all about, is bringing customers into that giving process without an ask.
Sure.
Like, how many places do we go where we're asked for something, asked for money, we're asked to round up our transaction to give to a charity that a large corporation has already chosen for you. And we did things differently. We said, let's let your customers choose which of those three organizations are the ones that we should be supporting as a community, as the Coho community.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree with anything more. When you think about what you're doing, what Phin is doing, and what we're doing, it's really very similar in a lot of ways. And I think we both agree that charity wins. Any business that leads in giving will always be receiving. So I think that's something that's really important. That's kind of really tied in the ethos and kind of the fabric of both of our businesses. I did touch on kind of a history and a background of your in Firebrand. Mm-hmm. Talk to me about really what you've learned from Firebrand and how you've went from Firebrand to kind of where you are today in Phin, and what being a founder is really all about.
Yeah, so I mean, I grew up in Firebrand. I mean, I was a kid when I started Firebrand in 1990, like just a few months outside of college, and everything that I've built today is through the mentorship and the friendship of Fran Tulin, who was the founder of Firebrand in the beginning, and my sister Susie, who's been my business partner now for 35 years, and I'm proud to say that not only do we build Firebrand together, but they are also partners in Phin. So that legacy, the three of us, continues in a different way, but very much built on the same foundation. And it's easy to say. It's very easy for me to say that a lot of the inspiration, a lot of my principles came from watching how Fran and Susie conducted themselves every single day, without fanfare, without expecting accolades. They just did the right thing. And that was instilled in me. I literally grew up in that company. Mm-hmm. I have some of my closest friends are in that company still to this day. And so listening to and watching how businesses are built, by people with strong principles, made all the difference for where we are, today with Phin. And I really found that it was because of those actions, because of those principles, that the company we became, had a successful, exit to a Japanese company. All that journey, which is a whole other podcast,
Sure.
I have to say, but all those principles, where we were giving back in our own way, really what shaped who I am, who Phin is as a company, and that thesis that businesses are absolutely positively stronger when they're supportive of everybody that's involved in the business, from customers to employees to leaders to our local community.
Yeah, it's one of the things you mentioned are leaders, and one of the big mission statements of this podcast is certainly going to be getting to know leaders, trying to find out the intangibles. When you talk about leaders over at Firebrand and to the leader that you are today, heading up the Phin team, what kind of intangibles do you think maybe some of our listeners, maybe some of our young entrepreneurs should strive for, and some things that they need to look out for, some things that a business coach would lend a hand to, an aspiring entrepreneur? What kind of things are you thinking for that?
So I think, we can unpack that for an entire podcast as well. But let's keep it super simple, right? Like, in a single word, trust.
Sure.
Trust, like, full stop. There's amazing people that have written about it, talked about it, Harvard Business Review has written articles around it. Everything starts with trust. And for leaders to adopt that position, like everything starts with trust, is the single most important thing that I can share, and that I have shared with other entrepreneurs, and how to build trust, authenticity, empathy, and logic. Like, you put those three things together, which is sort of the triangle of trust. You take the authenticity side. They're experiencing the real you. As a leader, are they getting the real you? Empathy obviously is all about, how are you doing today? What are your goals and objectives? What are your priorities today? And then the logic side is you have to have a strong business. You have to be smart. You have to build a business based on found principles. But that triangle, the building trust, is everywhere. It's with your employees. Are they going to want to work for you and your team? It's with your business partners. Can they trust you to do the right thing? And it's with investors. It's with your customers. All of that starts with trust. So when you're building a business, we get wrapped up in product. We get wrapped up in the operations. We get wrapped up in how am I going to survive the next day on cash? Those are all super important. But the single basic foundation is trust.
I love that. And I think, when you found a company like your own, and you're the founder of Phin, and you're accepting all these donation dollars, that has to be the forefront of somebody who's looking to say, hey, I want to work together, because I truly believe not only in what your cause is, but I believe in you. I believe in you as the captain of the ship that is Phin, and that's super, super, super important. And when you look about building great teams, naturally a strong leader will have those abilities to lead a group, and to be somebody who can say, hey guys, regardless of how you're feeling today, regardless of how I'm feeling, I need to show up as my best self. And that's something that as entrepreneurs that we work on a daily basis. With that being said, Doug, what are some of the things that you personally do to try to show up as your best self? Some of the things like exercise or breath work or meditation. What are some tools and tactics that you've exercised?
So that's a great question. I actually had a amazing coach, a guy named Charles, and he really helped me make that transition from part of a 30-year team to kind of shedding a lot of the safety and security of that team and starting a whole new life, essentially. As a solo entrepreneur, again, a solo founder. And his teachings are, sort of all based in common sense around what you'd expect from elite athletes. Like, elite athletes don't train, to exhaustion every single day. They sprint, they recover, they sprint, they recover. They take care of themselves. They do meditate. They do breath work. They do exercises that bring in flexibility rather than just strength. Like, they're thinking about their whole selves, their whole person, and so it was through sort of those teachings and learnings that I got through that really tumultuous period of uncertainty. Right, like when you're living as an entrepreneur, especially starting something new, you're living with uncertainty. You're living with risk every single day, every single moment of the day. It's a wholly different ballgame than being in a situation that's steady state. And so his teachings helped me understand how important it was to be running, and doubling down on my exercise, on meditation. Can't tell you how many floats I did over at the Float Place in Patchogue.
Sure.
Like 100, and it was during those times that, I was able to settle, recognize that my mind is completely intent on distracting me every second of every day, and bringing some control into that. And then allowing sort of the creativity to flow and the acceptance of the uncertainty and the risk.
Sure. I mean, one of the things you touched on is the way in which you operate is similar to an elite athlete. And some of the things that I think you can really pick from that myself, is that we talk so much about output, right? Output. What are you outputting? And one of the things I think sometimes we fail to double down on is our recovery. Mm-hmm. I think recovery is something that is not, touted enough. I think recovery and the ability to find that float place, find that meditative state, right? And we certainly have the tools in our buddy Corey Mascara, who is a world-renowned meditative expert.
Absolutely.
So it's one of those things that, you really want to continue to push and push and push and push, but there is so much underrated value in the ability to recover, and I think that's actually really where the growth actually happens, in your ability to say, hey, I'm burning the midnight oil, I am burning the candle on both ends, and the strength is really in our ability to recover.
Yeah.
And one of the things I wanted to talk about, you talk about founding the company in 2019. Leaving Firebrand, exiting Firebrand. Obviously, 2019, we all know what happened in 2020. Talk to me, Doug, about how, again, myself, I could speak on this, but how we kind of got really smacked across the face, right, with COVID and in 2020. What a tumultuous year that was, and how starting a company brand new in 2019, leading into 2020. And talk to me about the trials, tribulations of COVID.
Yeah, well, I'm a brilliant strategist, and my timing was impeccable. Let's throw all caution to the wind. Start a new tech company. Tech companies take 5 to 8 years before they can stand on their own. That's just the nature of tech companies. And let's start this company with the support of Grace and the girls, and sure, Dad, let's do this crazy thing. At your age, that's a great idea. And we started the company in roughly spring of 2019. It takes a while to build a platform and kind of do your first cases, and we officially launched the platform in February 2020. Way to go, Doug.
Perfect timing.
Perfect timing. Love you. Good job. And and while we were a social good platform, we decided that we were going to really lean into the social good aspect of it, and it was clear that I wasn't going to go out selling business service around marketing and employee engagement, with this beautiful brand spanking new, tech platform in March and April of 2020, right?
Sure.
So that was my first, way to go, good job. And we pivoted that during those first, especially 3 or 4 months. And I'm very proud to say that, we just put all thoughts of having a commercial business on hold. And we said, what can we do to create some good out of this platform that we built? Mm-hmm. And how do we engage people in this moment of sorrow and pain and difficulty? When people are just struggling to literally get food on the table and roofs over their head. And so we pivoted we created the Phin Food and Shelter Project. So we got companies to pool money together, and we ran events. We ran virtual music events and oyster shucking events.
What a time!
And cocktail making events. Through April, May, and June of the pandemic. And what we did is we were holding the events, we had music from New Orleans with world-class musicians on their porches, playing trombone and piano, and we did that, and the money that those companies had pooled together for us, we distributed during the event virtually, and said, everybody, here's $10, and you guys go and work on you guys go and choose a cause that's important to you. So whether it's New Orleans Musicians Relief Fund or locally here, it's Island Harvest. We used the platform then to do that. And then at some point we had to shift back to okay, well, now that I'm burning all this capital, what do we do next?
Right.
And so there was that transition after COVID, and we're still here. So,
Sure. Thank God, breathing and breathing well. So that's the best thing. And when you talk about breathing, you talk about where Phin was born. Right, Phin was born right here at 62 West Main Street.
That's absolutely correct. That's absolutely true.
So it's really special to me to have housed not only you, but really all of the great thinkers that we have here on the South Shore of Long Island at Coho, 62 West Main. When you think about the people who have been here, who have impacted me, and who have impacted some of our great business leaders here on Long Island, I would have no question about putting Doug Lessing and Phin really in that conversation. I couldn't tell you somebody else who is as giving and really who is as thoughtful as Doug. And like I said, when you think about giving, I think that goes hand in hand with Doug and Grace Lessing for sure. So you founding Phin in 2019 and now where we are here today in November 4th of 2023. Where do you see Phin in the next 5 years?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned Grace because she's been my rock through all this. You go from making money to spending it. It's a pretty big life transition,
Sure.
and to think that I started right here in the back of Coho at the back table. That line that we came up with, I crafted at Coho. And there's no better way to put a stamp on Phin than to say crafted at Coho, and I think that's true when you think of a lot of people in this space. Right, it's not just a coffee house. It's so much more than that. It's remarkable that you can come to a place like this and sit at the back table and get your best work done. And I think that's not an accident. I think it's because of the atmosphere, the vibe, fellow entrepreneurs, people building businesses, people getting their degrees in college, studying, people getting medical degrees, right here in your store. So, I think that's all part of it. For Phin in the next few years, we just passed a major milestone in that we have generated over $1 million
Wow.
in corporate-funded donations. So we're not asking people for money. This is companies decide that it's good for business and it's good for community to give back. So we just passed $1 million, and in fact, in the past month, we've tacked on another $250,000.
Wow.
So like that curve that went from 0 during the pandemic to 50 a year later to 500 was a major milestone in last summer, 2022, to now 1 million, $1.25 million. That's the curve we're looking for to get to 100 million. And at that point, we'll know that, then I'll look beyond that. But 100 million is my number. So in 5 years, it's almost impossible to predict. Right now, we're in that battle. It's not easy. We fight one at a time, one client at a time. And there's nothing simple about this, and there's nothing easy about it. And it's taking longer than expected. But it's one client at a time, one success at a time, and that 10 has become 20, is going to become 30, and then hopefully we'll start to see some scale as we really start to grow. But that's the nature of a tech business, one at a time in the beginning.
Incredible. I mean, that's really the way I like to try to handle my life. To be honest, it's one day at a time, right?
Yeah.
One customer at a time. Every day is a new day, and every day is a blank canvas. And whether you have a great day, you put your head down and you attack the next day as if whether it was good or bad, the previous day doesn't really matter. I know, and of course, I commend Grace, your wife. It's incredible. What a successful family you have, and I can't even imagine, Doug. Talk to me about how the family that you have really kind of motivates you to continue to do what you do.
Well, it's we said at the beginning about the story of that transition from Firebrand to Phin, and the support that I got, the inspiration I got from my daughters. That concept of inspiring upwards as much as you're inspiring downwards, I think is really important. It's a big part of what who I've become. Grace impresses me every single day. She's an ophthalmologist in private practice, solo practitioner. And she sees 35 patients on her own every day. She does surgeries a couple days a week, and yet she comes home and she's still got some spunk. Like, how do you do that? I don't know.
Sure.
That's exhausting being in front of that many people. But I will tell you, to brag a little bit about Grace, like, her patients love her. She brings home baked cookies, muffins, crocheted goods, flowers, herbs from a garden, like, you name it. So that's inspiring to me to watch these amazingly strong women that, care so much and are giving back. So without a family like that, you can't go from a career where, you're bringing money in, you're saving for the future, to a moment where you're like, okay, let's just start spending some of that, at age 55. Let's start tucking into our retirement savings to build a new business.
Sure.
And that takes a lot of guts on everybody's part, and I've never really been questioned by it. So it's an amazing gift that's been given to me by, my team. They call me the minority in a sorority.
Sure.
So that's what it's like in my house, as you mentioned before, with my 3 daughters, my amazing wife, and 2 young female Springer Spaniels.
Sure. Doug, when you talk about where you are today and where you've been 30 years ago, what is one thing that, again, I believe our listeners are going to be an aspiring entrepreneur group. What's one thing, Doug, that you really want to instill in one of our listeners who are looking to start, whether it be a coffee house, right, whether it be a podcast, or whether it be a socially good, platform like what Phin is?
Yeah, I think there's a certain, we've talked about recovery before, like there's a higher level of performance that elite athletes, adopt. It's not, the typical cultural mantra of just go, work 70, 80 hours a week, never stop. Like that's not higher level performance, That's a lower level performance. Don't mind the balloons that are, coming in your way.
Well, the balloons, to be honest with you, that's the best part of the show. I mean,
that's why we're here.
The idea of this show was meant to be raw and unedited and just like our everyday lives, you know. So we encourage the blunders and we encourage the errors and things of that nature, just like it would be a regular day in all of our lives. So.
Yeah, a perfect reason to invite me on for the first guest.
Perfect.
But I think for entrepreneurs, you have to think about that higher level of performance and think about getting comfortable, which takes some time, takes conditioning, getting comfortable with risk, getting comfortable with uncertainty, and recognizing that, any thoughts of a time frame to success is completely irrelevant in the greater scope of the universe that's going to be bearing down on you against that success. So it's going to take time. So you got to be able to stretch, keep a small footprint and stretch, that time as long as possible, and just get super comfortable with uncertainty.
Yeah, I second that. I'm a very big believer in whether you are an athlete or whether you are an endurance athlete or whether you are an entrepreneur. I think it's extremely important for one to really get comfortable being uncomfortable. I think that's something that...
that's the line, yep.
That's something that... a lot of young entrepreneurs think that there's a quick buck or, that the grass is greener on the other side. And, the reality is, and I love this expression, the grass is greener where you water it, right? So like what you putting your intention in, what you're investing in, where you're doubling down, that's really where the grass is greener. So, when you look across the 30 plus years of Firebrand and now Phin, it's easy to say, hey, what a success story. But the reality is it's 30 plus years of working till you have that overnight success. So I think that's something that everyone needs to hear about being comfortable being uncomfortable, because there's going to be plenty of days between January 1st and December 31st that are really going to take you down the roller coaster, the highs and lows. And the more comfortable you are on that roller coaster, the better you're going to be, really not only for business but really overall for life. So
and I think you're a great example of that. Like, you are an entrepreneur at heart. Like, you can sit with that uncertainty and that risk, and God knows you put the time and effort in. So I think you embody that as an entrepreneur, that ability to just kind of just sit there with that uncertainty. What's coming next? How do I negotiate this? We've had a lot of conversations around a lot of difficult issues, like how do I negotiate this? How do I work my way through it? And it's a process to get through that, those issues as an entrepreneur. So, I take inspiration. You've been very kind to me, but I take inspiration from you watching everything that you've built, and the way that you've built it. As an honest broker, as someone that people trust. That is why I'm so excited to be part of this Coho community, to have built Phin right here at Coho. But really, it's about the inspiration that you provide people as well. So it goes in lots of directions. But
appreciate that.
You're sitting with your own uncertainty and risk every day.
Yeah. Every day, and that's something that you really have to be comfortable with. When you work for yourself, you really have to live and die knowing that your blood, sweat, and tears are going to be the ones that kind of dictate your future, right? But at the end of the day, I think that, in my opinion, I would rather be the one who's driving the bus than to have anybody else drive it. So I'm comfortable with that, and you have to learn to be comfortable with that. And I encourage any young entrepreneur, young or old, to seek that mentor, to find that Doug Lessing, to find somebody. And I know Doug and I joke about it all the time. And I'm on exit 1 and Doug's at exit 50.
55 if you're counting.
That's fine. But the reality is that you want to find somebody that's been far up the road than you have. Somebody who can take you to where you want to go, and seeking that mentor is really invaluable. And Doug, I thank you for really all of the guidance that you've you've instilled in me, and truly what's led us here today. And I think it's a beautiful relationship we have. I'm honored to have you on our first podcast. Couldn't think of a better guest. And Doug, that leads me into what is a kind of a funny segment, ending our show, but which is going to be called Hit and Run.
Okay, go.
So Hit and Run is.
And I have no prior knowledge of this.
No, that's the
fun
best
event
part.
that you're about to sling at me.
Sure. Yeah, Hit and Run is all about the first thing that comes to mind. I got 10 questions for you, and the first thing that comes to mind is what you're going to answer.
Yeah.
So the first question is Fire Island, Montauk, or Martha's Vineyard?
Fire Island.
Favorite meal?
Pizza.
Favorite moment of your career?
The moment that we closed the deal on Firebrand, that was an amazing validation of everything that we've done together as a team.
Best advice anyone ever gave you?
Stick with it.
The person you have not met but can't wait to meet?
Simon Sinek.
Favorite Long Island tourist spot?
I had to think about that. I'm not really a tourist.
Favorite place on Long Island that you love to see?
Okay,
This is our home.
Fire Island Lighthouse.
Great.
Tourist spot for sure.
Sure. If you had a mulligan in life, what would you do differently?
Oh, that's a loaded question. I don't know if there's much I would do differently.
That's a perfect answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Favorite athlete of all time?
Favorite athlete of all time? Well, I'm going to say Charles Scott because he's my mentor and an amazing endurance athlete, but also an amazing friend.
Excellent. Favorite late night snack, Doug? It's 11:30 at night. You've got your pajama pants on. You're watching TV. What are you going towards?
Give me some Triscuits, but we don't have enough in the house.
Triscuits.
Yeah,
That's
it's gotta
Doug.
be Triscuits.
Triscuits.
It's a good way to end the night. If we're not talking about like that last Oktoberfest of the night, you know.
Sure. And my last question, Doug. You're trapped in a foxhole. What person would you want to be with you?
Rob Catrone.
That's awesome.
From the heart.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Doug. You're the best, man.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I'm so proud of you. Amazed at what you've built. Can't wait to see what comes next. It's really it's an honor to be here today as part of this inaugural podcast with the balloons and all. Really, this is an exciting day. The ribbon cutting here at Coho. How lucky are we to be watching this unfold?
Thank you so much. Doug, thanks so much for joining us. This concludes the episode 001, November 4th, 2023. Doug Lessing, thank you so much for being on. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Rob.